Rolling up, I'm feeling fly, yeah, I'm so damn fresh. Got that platinum grill, bringing in the chest. Diamonds in my mouth, shining when I speak. That umbrella guy, flossing speaking geek. Ice on my teeth, I'm dripping so hard. Platinum grills, I'm the king of the boulevard. Throwing money in the club, making haters mad. I'm the baddest in the game, no one gets a pass. Ooh yeah. Pushing all these lines, yeah, I feel fly. Rolling on the dubs, that umbrella guy. Iced out flow on the boulevard. You ain't a comic gangster, don't be playing hard. Ice on my teeth, I'm flying so high. Dropping the bass, that umbrella guy. One drill to rule them all, one drill to bind them. Baby, I'm so iced out, gonna blind them. Rolling in town, I'm an army of one. Doing verbal walk-bys, blazing like the sun. Riding in my whip, crushing false accusers. Dropping off the bass on the real abusers. Yeah. Living life fast, no time for the slow. Justice on my mind, stacking up on my flow. Life in the fast lane, no time to blink. Ice on my teeth, watch it when I speak. Chillin' on my rhymes, never missing a beat. Ice on my teeth, yeah, I'm living that sweet. That umbrella guy, bringing the platinum heat.
Oh, ice on my teeth, baby. Hey there, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to a kind of a different one, I guess. We haven't covered anything outside of cases in a long time. Got some guests with me today. Let's introduce everybody. Let's start Grummz. How you doing, my friend? I don't think, besides Splashcast, we've been on one show together, and that's it.
Yeah, no, it's good to be here on your show. I really have been enjoying your videos, and yeah, and we get to talk games, so that's cool.
Yeah, man, I figured, if we were gonna hit the subject, you would be somebody to hit that with, considering the Hornet's Nest. What's up, Valiant Renegade, by the way? How you doing, man?
Doing great. It's good to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to be here, and with great company. Flash, you, Grummz. I got to notice the Pope Tug icon up there. So I love it. I love it.
That's right, man. laying down the laws, man. Not to be confused with the law to Pope. Recade a law. That's a total different thing.
Different thing. You're the pop culture Pope. We'll
there we go.
I was just up in your neck of the woods in the last few days. I wish I'd had one extra day because I actually wanted to kind of head out to your area and I visit like some business contacts I have up there, but I just didn't get to do it. But next time I come up that way.
Man,
you and I got to get together.
Yeah, you head up towards the Nashville area. You yell at me, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
For real.
I was 2 hours away.
Well, shit, man. We go get out there and freaking, I don't know, grab a steak or something,
Absolutely.
Have fun. And, of course, Yellow Flash. What's up, man?
Hey. Sorry, I was just yawning. It's been a long day.
Like, hey, what's up, man? Yeah, I know.
A long day.
Dude.
I'm trying to get out to Tennessee too, actually, but I'm trying to go to the Tail of the Dragon.
Oh, yeah, the Dragon's Tail, yeah.
I've always wanted to go hit that, and I'm thinking about finally going this year.
You got a bike for it?
I had a couple bikes. I
have a very good friend of mine that is an New Orleans area motorcycle cop. His dad was a very famous sheriff down here. Or his uncle, excuse me. His uncle was a very famous sheriff down here. Moved up there in Tennessee years ago, and that was his big thing. He had his bike, and he was posting on Facebook like crazy for an entire day when he was ripping down the Dragon's Tail. That was his gig, man. It looked awesome. Absolutely amazing.
It must not have been that fun if he was posting on Facebook the entire time.
Well, he would ride for a bit. He would ride for a bit, and then he'd stop and take pictures at some of the overlooks over in the Smokies, and post pictures. And he had like a body cam. He had like a GoPro that he was shooting, and then he posted it later. It was awesome.
I tried to do that, and I just could not get the Had a lot of audio issues.
There's Raging Rhino. Rhino,
You
you
got to
could come
get
on
the
too if you
windsock
want.
for it.
Hey,
Lash.
Rhino, you could come on if you want, man. I didn't invite you, brother. I'm sorry.
You can get
Yeah.
a windsock for those. You just strap them to the top of the GoPro where the mic input is, and it sits on top, and it takes out the wind noise for you.
I thought we'd get
try
together
that.
and talk video games, man. I've been a little out of the loop. I've been watching the insanity, of course. Grummz right at the spear tip of all of the insanity. But I don't even know where to begin with some of this stuff. I don't know. If you were going to explain this to someone on the outside of it, I figure you guys, you would be really good at this. How would you walk people into this subject? What's going on right now?
Which one? there's like a dozen different topics that exploded over the past couple of weeks. It's been crazy. I think things really, at least for me, picked up when Kabrutus started the Sweet Baby Inc. detected list, the Steam curator group, and that was a list where he listed all the games that a consulting company called Sweet Baby worked on. That's extremely woke company of writers, and whatever game they touched seemed to just turn to crap. So he made a list and said these are the games they worked on, and they lost it. Like, people just lost their minds that such a list could exist. And he didn't say anything bad about it necessarily, just sort of like, here's what they worked on. It's like a credit list. And that's, I think, for me, when things sort of exploded, and I said, okay, I'm getting in here, and I'm going to talk about this stuff.
You ended up with some crazy people pointing your way too. I mean, we all get threats, but I don't think I've ever had anybody actually offer, what was it, $20,000 for your
Yeah,
for
I
a
think
hit?
it started at 10K. I've lost track. If you count the jokes, it's up to 100K. Yeah, but
Right.
Grummz, can we go ahead and say that you are now, by far and away, the most wanted man on YouTube?
I'm the most wanted man in gaming for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mean-
it's just
Yeah, you're worth like 50 grand.
Yeah, totally. I think on the more serious side of things, it's probably up to 50 grand. Not that anyone can actually afford to pay that, who's making these threats, but it has been something I had to take seriously. We joke about it. It was pretty serious. Somebody even tried to file an FBI report on me, and it's kind of the same energy as swatting, that was that was kind of a shocker, and the guy seemed very unstable on his YouTube video. But anyways, it's something you do have to take seriously, because I've seen it happen. I've seen people start with jokes, and then next thing you know, someone's punched at a convention, right? Jeremy Cordery.
Yeah.
So this is something that you cannot take lightly. And if you extrapolate it to what's happening, because this issue is not just in games, right? This sort of progressive leftist fervent ideology is everywhere right now, and especially in politics. And we're leading up to an election year where it's going to get even crazier. You have to take this seriously, because in the past, it's led to violence over and over again, quite consistently. It galvanizes the crazies to act out. So you do have to take it seriously. You do have to take some precautions.
Yeah, we've seen that narrative popping up. We've had cases explained through the bots and the narratives that you typically see. I never thought that I would see people revisit a 2-year-old case, talk about bots, and try to say, actually, that whole case was about election interference. So so yeah, that definitely, it's interesting how all these topics, they kind of overlay, and we all do our own thing, but it seems like we all end up facing off against the same people.
Well, yeah, it's a global. It's even global. It's all over the world. Europe. It's even happening in Asia. South Korea and Japan are not immune. I think the leftist ideology is our number one export from the United States, and it's affecting the world. But in
Grummz,
games,
it feels more like an import than an export these days. I
Oh,
swear,
jeez.
sometimes.
we can go down that rabbit hole. There's there's governments out there that are trying to that want this stuff to happen because it's bad for the West, you know. So that's, I mean, but you start talking about that, and video game guys are go, you're crazy, right?
Mm,
But from what I hear from the inside, from studio heads and everything else, that had a lot to do with it, especially early on. There's a lot of money involved in video games, and a lot of that was driving what's happening. And there's also a lot of, I would say, indoctrination in colleges that lead to a lot of your staff that you hire, you know, feeling this way. And it used to be we were fine not talking about politics. You know, we play games, we make games, and in the studio it doesn't matter. But now everything has to be political, and you have to pick a side, and it's not enough to be silent. So something that really bugged me was a lot of my friends and in the industry, they feel really depressed and hunted. You know, they are walking on eggshells constantly, and it's not enough for them just to not say anything. If they don't repeat the mantra, if they do not, you know, with a throated roar, you know, reinforce the talking points of this political agenda, they are called to carpet. You know, they are put on the spot and like, why aren't you? Well, how do you feel about this? You have to tell us. And it's really bizarrely, you know, authoritarian. It's really bizarrely communist, and it's just a strange time, man. And unfortunately, I would like to see my friends in a better place. I would like to see AAA in a better place where people feel safe to work there and talk shit and play games and make them. And that's the way it was when I was in the AAA industry. And you know, I'd like to see that back. It's no fun to see all your friends miserable like that.
Well, you have a very distinct vantage point. You know, you that's your field. You know, you've been there. You've seen it behind the scenes. Most people, they see the way these folks act, but you've seen the other side and the pressure of that.
Yeah, and I've seen it top to bottom, right? Because I've been a developer. I've also been a C-level executive, a CEO. You know, I've done venture capital, raised a bunch of money. I've had to deal with this and I know how the decisions are made from the very top to the very bottom. So yeah, it is a perspective that lets me see some things and lets people confide in me. So, you know, I don't have just, you know, developers talking to me. I have CEOs talking to me, and everyone is concerned about this.
Now, what something that was interesting to watch pop off, every one of you guys was covering it. Sweet Baby, Sweet Baby Inc. How do companies like that, I mean, you see the damage that they did. I mean, we're talking about titles that freaking, they should succeed. Like, honestly, you shouldn't be losing, you know, $200 million on a game. And yet, we're at that place where people bring in these companies. I mean, how exactly does that take root? How does that, you know, how do you convince a company that they need to do that? I would like to really, you know, not just Grummz, but like Valiant, Yellow Flash, all you guys covered from a different place. Like I said, Grummz has a good vantage point from behind the scenes. So, you know, he probably, you know, he talks to people with that and has seen it. But I'm curious how all of that breaks out.
Well, I mean, from the business side of things, and you know, to what Grummz was just saying, to his point, excuse me, one of the things that surprised me, I really genuinely had no idea. You know, we've been covering for 3 years, a little over 3 years now on YouTube, a lot of the business and financial side of the entertainment industry. I mean, not trying to tip my own hat here, but we made covering Disney and Warner Brothers and Comcast earnings calls popular on YouTube. But, you know, we we love looking at what the money does, right? Because money talks, shit walks, the old expression. And it was amazing to watch over the years the infiltration of things like DEI and leftist politics into the zeitgeist of culture. And looking at it from the money side, until very recently, by comparison, and I know it's been going on for a while, and Grummz can elaborate on this far more eloquently than can I. But I had no idea the depth that it was already still embedded in the gaming side. And I've only been learning that more recently with things going on. But as far as I can tell from my side, spending 20 years in the industry I have, it all comes from the same source. And that is there was this desire, this push that came out of virtually nowhere, or we could say left field, in Wall Street, where suddenly ESG scores were being pushed into the S&P 500. If you were traded on the NASDAQ over the counter, on the New York Stock Exchange, the CBOE, the Chicago Board of Exchange, there was this push years ago to start making this fictitious garbage called an environmental socialism and governance score. This is what I call it. But, socialism especially. But the idea being that these companies would have to try to use their leverage, their power, their financial clout. And all of a sudden, their charge was no longer make the most money for the owners of the company, which is what defines capitalism, right? Be as profitable as you can be. Make a great product that the largest, broadest audience will grab onto and pay you for. Make it as inelastic, as economically inelastic as possible, meaning that they will pay any price to still hang on to your product because your product is so good. That is what defines the free market and capitalism. We went from that to take your power and influence and then start making social change that conforms to a very specific political ideology. That's where we are now. It's infected Hollywood like a cancer. It's infected gaming like a cancer. And the two industries, honestly, are very much in the same position, although I think, and Grummz, I want to hear your opinion on what I'm about to say. I feel like gaming, maybe the transition from just making great games to now let's make DEI stuff, to the snapback, the pendulum swinging the other way, might even be an even faster move than what we saw in Hollywood, because gamers really got pissed really fast, and they were very vocal about it. Whereas this Hollywood change, this is taking longer. I don't know what it is, but I mean, they're suffering the same. They're suffering the same affliction, in my view now. And it's been fascinating for me to learn the other side of this, because it's incredible how related they are. But that's just me. Grummz, I want to hear your take on that.
Well, one thing I want to note too, a lot of people think, it's amazing to me. There are a lot of people that think the DEI or ESG, it's a conspiracy theory, like it's not real. I'm like, hey, go look up Warner Brothers.
No, it's very real.
Yeah, it's very real. They do reports on it, and what's crazy is they talk about sculpting our thought. They talk about sculpting the environment. They're supposed to be out there making entertainment, and they're doing anything but. I mean, it's actually quite scary when you go over some of these reports and what they discuss in them. I see people all the time, like when this subject's brought up, being like, that's conspiracy. That's a political talking point. And it's like, no, all you got to do is search it, and search any major company out there. They produce reports on it.
They do. And Tug, if you don't mind, let me interject for a moment, because I think this is an important point for the audience too, is that understand, and you brought up Warner Brothers, and I think Warner Brothers is a great example. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Warner Brothers doesn't have some genuine DEI infiltration in it, but at the same time, Zaslav has now been there just 2 years this month. He came in, the new sheriff in town, May of 21, thereabout. He's been doing a lot of house cleaning. Zaslav's not a guy, personally, that is embedded in politics of any sort. He will say, hey, I'll spend the money if I think it can make money. And if he thinks he can spend $10 million making a TV show that's going to appeal to the blue-haired, screaming liberal banshees, fine, he'll do it. But he's not going to spend $250 million making one doing that because he knows better, unlike Disney. My point is that there's a difference of a lot of companies out there that put their DEI and ESG stuff on their website because they kind of feel like they have to, because there's an enormous amount of peer pressure on Wall Street to do that, versus the companies that are truly politically, socially, intellectually dug into it. Like they take it to heart, like the Disneys. And that's a big difference out there. I'm not absolving companies of Warner Brothers from doing certain things or posting things on their website. Don't misunderstand. The point is that there are companies out there that are doing it because, again, peer pressure versus the companies that are doing it because they genuinely believe it. And people need to start looking at this. And the more we see, like in the gaming industry, there's a lot of people in the gaming industry, because they've decided to hire a gaggle of people that are nut jobs that are now so steeped in it, they have to try to find a way to unwind themselves from it, just like they do in Hollywood right now. So that's, just to put that out there as a for instance for people watching to consider.
Look, there are trends in investing where it gets trendy, especially as an investment product, right? If you're a broker selling an investment product, the green trend, everyone want to hop on that. That is beyond just financial return. That is because you had investment coupled with financial return and a good cause that people felt good about, and mom and pops felt good about investing in it, and you could sell them products in green energy. ESG became that way. ESG became a product that was like, hey, this is not just environment, this is the good for humanity, and brokers were told to push this. Mm-hmm. Brokers were told to push this, and it did sell well for a while, and only recently
financial incentive. You're right. That's the key, Grummz.
And only recently have ESG returns been soft, right? Because we had, during the great sheltering in 2019 to 2021, there was so much money being spent. There was so much such a demand for games and media that you couldn't really see what was working and what wasn't, because everything was working. Everything was working, and numbers were growth was double digit across the board, doubling, tripling, even. It was crazy go times.
Throwing darts against the side of a barn. We talk about that in the financial planning world all the time. Yeah,
it's probably easy to sell too to a quite literal captive audience. First we had a great golden age in entertainment period. It was rolling around, even though theaters and everything else were still bleeding money. But then, with our beer bug lockdown, what else did we have to do but spend on entertainment? Nothing else. We were, we couldn't vacation. We couldn't do anything else. So yeah, everything seemed to make money.
And we're having it bite us in the ass right now, because every CEO out there pretended that this would last forever. And these are smart people, right? They know that nothing lasts forever. But when the times are good and your stock is going through the roof and your sales are going through the roof, you're going to tell investors, we see this going on forever. And they made plans that way, and they invested money that way. And that's what's causing a huge collapse in Microsoft gaming right now, and AAA gaming right now, because the growth is flat. Game Pass isn't selling. So as that money dried up, now we're seeing a return to focus on cash flow, right? Mm-hmm. Cash is king now. That is where a lot of game companies are in trouble, because the easy money, the ESG, DEI money, is not there anymore. And I don't know how deep into this to get, but every public company publishes an ESG report. Elon publishes an ESG report for Tesla, right? Mm-hmm. But he doesn't focus on the S component. I guess he's more about the green and everything else, and he scores very poorly in the other areas. But you have to do this, because if you want to look, there are large corporations out there and that do credit reporting for corporations, right? your credit rating for your bonds and everything else. And they have ESG requirements. So if you want to get a better credit rating, you have to have an ESG score that's high up there. And that matters a lot to public
That's
companies.
where the potency is. That's where the potency is. And, to address somewhat of a misnomer out there, people always talk about, guys like BlackRock and whatnot. And yeah, BlackRock and Larry Fink heavily involved in all this, has been for years. And people think that, BlackRock just shovels billions and billions and billions of cash into companies for ESG. It's not quite how it works. And I say that because I want the audience to understand the reality of it, because if we're going to defeat it, we need to know how it operates. BlackRock, as a publicly traded company on Wall Street, is worth, I think, at my last glance, is about a maybe $8 to $10 billion market cap company. It's not very big. Disney, by comparison, short of their recent fall, was about a $200 billion company. Microsoft, a $3 trillion company. Apple, nearly a $3 trillion company. BlackRock's power comes in their AUM, or assets under management. BlackRock manages trillions and trillions of dollars of assets under management, meaning
It's
your
almost
your
9
IRA.
trillion. It's almost 9 trillion, right?
Yeah, exactly. They manage some of the biggest, and this is the key, the biggest S&P 500 index funds that are out there. Their S&P 500 index mutual funds and ETFs alone are probably, I think, Tug, something like 2 or 3 trillion of that 9 trillion. And what that means is that they're not actively going out and from the bulk of their holdings, they're not actively going out and buying a Disney so they can control it. It's just a matter of Disney's on the S&P 500, so are 499 other companies. So they're going to own a huge portion of these companies no matter what, because of the volume of your IRAs and your 401k dollars that are in there.
Yep.
BlackRock's biggest power, very similar to Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, American funds, so on and so forth, come in their ability to custodially own those shares on your behalf and vote them. That's the key, is the voting power. It's not the money. It's the voting power. Yes, places like BlackRock have their own financing internally to where, hey, they can open lines of credit for S&P 500 companies. I'll tell you right now, everybody loves to talk about BlackRock. There's nowhere near enough of you out there talking about Chase Bank and Jamie Dimon. That's the real power play. You want to know how you got George Lucas to make a statement like that publicly in support of Bob Iger? Well, that's because George Lucas's wife, Melody Hobson, sits on the board of J.P. Morgan Chase right next to Jamie Dimon. Who do you think made the phone call to get that done to support Iger's board over Nelson Peltz a month or so ago? That's how that happened. That's where the power lies in terms of lending. And to what Grummz is talking about and has been mentioned before, if your ESG score is high enough, then you know what? That 5%, 6%, 7% corporate loan, or hey, you're going to pay 2% over LIBOR, which is the London interbank offer rate, something that's used in corporate bonds to price these things out. Hey, we'll shave 50 basis points or 0.5% off of this loan if your ESG score is high enough. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot. But when you're talking about billions and billions and trillions, in some cases, of dollars of assets, you're talking about real money. 0.5% is big money. Yep. So they go for these ESG scores to reduce the cost of capital, the cost of debt and leverage. And that amounts to, collectively, hundreds of billions of dollars of savings. So this is where the ESG thing comes into play. But there's more companies out there now. There's more mutual funds. Like we saw a retraction from Vanguard, in the last 6 to 8 months, to where, you know what, this ESG thing, We're not crazy about this anymore because we figured out that it's not actually helping our clients. It's not actually helping shareholders. This just kind of seems more like a money pit. And while ESG is great and diversity is great and we're all for it and that's fine and dandy if people want to do it, but it can't be the end all be all, because at the end of the day, our job as financial fiduciaries is still to our clients to return them the most money that we possibly can. And this crap is getting in the way of it. So expect to see more and more of this. Look at what happened with I don't know if you saw this today, Tug. Did you see what the board of directors for North Carolina's Board of Regents and Colleges did?
No.
They defunded DEI at UNC completely, over $2 million.
Huh.
And they said, we're sending this all to law enforcement.
Damn, that's a huge move, man. That's a huge
After
move.
Florida, now UNC. And next week it goes to a vote in all of the 20-some-odd higher education facilities in the state, where they will absolutely shut down all the college higher education DEI departments and reshift the money to law enforcement instead. The whole protest thing pushed it over the edge. So there are small victories everywhere on this. Hollywood, gaming, and higher ed, we need to rally around them, and we need to sing them to the high heavens, because this is how winning is done. That's it.
Well, I mean, who pulled out of BlackRock recently? What state pulled out their pension retirement funds?
There were several. One of the Carolinas, I think, what was it? South Carolina, it might have been North Carolina. They did that. There was a few others that looked at it, said the same thing. Because they said, look,
I don't think most people know that that's where the money comes from. It comes from these retirement funds and these, like you said, assets under management, and that's and it comes and it's not billionaires sitting there funding everything, right? It's everybody's collective savings, everybody's collective investments, and that are being managed, like you said, by a few key companies.
That's it.
And using that as leverage, and it's your money. And it's your money that's doing this. And that's why it's important to wake up and realize it. It's not billionaires pulling their purse strings. They're pulling your purse strings.
A little bit of it is. But I mean, it's mostly
leveraged.
it's leveraged, and people, that's why I say people have to realize that when you invest in your 401k, which is a good thing, keep doing that. But understand that, the mutual funds and the ETFs in there, the money managers of those products, when you put your money in there, you're owning all this stock. You're buying Disney stock. You're buying Warner Brothers. You're buying IBM, which they're having issues now. America's First Freedom, whatever that law firm is, they're filing suit against IBM. But all these companies that you're buying in your S&P 500 fund, you're turning over your proxy to the money manager, to BlackRock, to T. Rowe Price, to American Funds, or whomever.
Exactly.
You're turning over your proxy to vote the value of your shares. They're voting on your behalf. So that's just that. I mean, that's normal. That's been the way for many, 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 many years. But that's why it's important now to wake up and understand that the money managers that you're using understand how they're voting on your behalf. And if you don't like it, then you can look at making different decisions with your dollars.
This also affects things. We're talking at the public company level, but if you look at startups, right? Mm-hmm. Tech startups and game startups are largely funded out of Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley, Sand Hill Road is right there with San Francisco, and it's definitely a cultural peer pressure too amongst VC. Mm-hmm. To toe the line on this stuff. Even if they don't agree, you're having dinner with people who will basically cut you off if you don't have the right opinions. And if you want access and if you want to play ball in Silicon Valley, you play the politics of San Francisco. And so when these startups happen, there's a lot of pressure there. Their funding also comes from retirement funds. And there's a lot of pressure there in startups to conform to this ideology too. So it really started with the money And in order to get cheap capital, and you have a duty to get cheap capital, you have a fiduciary duty, right? If you can save half to a percent, investors are going to ask, why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you taking this deal? And so what happened was, as the money came in, there was an entire industry that would basically verify your ESG score and bolster it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's an entire industry out there. And one of my contacts is someone who sells DEI products, right? And they come in and they say, look, you're going to save X $1 million. We're only going to cost you 1 million. And you'll save all this money, and that's the margin. That's where they get in, and they sell their products. And these consulting.
Let's replace the word margin with that's the lie.
Well, yeah,
that's the lie.
Because you save money today, but you lose it when your products flop tomorrow.
Right. But as soon as you release your product, you're going in the red. We're not going to tell you that part. Yeah, but that's
VC love it when you go into the red, because then you have to take more money from them, and they get more control. They want you to spend the entire investment, so you have to raise your Series D, E, F, G, H.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's just an enormous amount of pressure at the top, wielded by very few large companies and people who have sway over vast amounts of your money. And this is where it came from at the top. And then in educational institutions, I'm not so sure. I'd be really fascinated to know where that crept in, because that's where you get the activists that are coming out of college that these companies are hiring, game companies are hiring, and they are fully indoctrinated by the time that they get into the studio. And so what can happen is, even if management says, okay, we're not going to do this DEI, ESG stuff anymore because it's not profitable, you now have a problem where you are effectively held hostage by your own employees who feel very, very differently and who will skewer you, if you don't agree. And most CEOs, they don't own the majority of their companies, right? I don't know if most people know this. They don't, and they
not
can
remotely.
Not even remotely.
None of them when it comes to publicly traded, really, except maybe if you're like a Jeff Bezos or something like that.
Yeah, well, unless you're Zuckerberg and you've been very careful through all your financing rounds to retain a class of shares that retains the voting rights that you need. But yeah, when the CEOs can't just snap their fingers and say, okay, we're different now. They have to deal with the fallout throughout the entire company, and only very few people can have enough FU money and leverage to say otherwise. Like when Elon came in to Twitter and cleaned house there, right? That is not something that 99% of CEOs can do. So this is the trap that they're in now. They know that money is drying up and that the winds are turning and that they have to make a profit, but they've got all this baggage in their studios.
It was amazing to see how much baggage a place like Twitter was carrying. When Elon actually was talking about how much money they were losing daily and some of the stuff they were losing it on. It's crazy when you can go in and you can cut 9/10, almost 90% of your workers and still function. To me, that's wild.
What was it, like 20,000 a day in avocado toast?
Yeah, I mean, when you're getting millions per day, that's nuts. Yeah. Now it feels like he maybe cut a little too deep, and the actual bots have taken over. The prawn bots and all that. they're everywhere, but I mean, still. He could probably hire 5 people back and fix that problem.
Well, there is a crisis of productivity that I'm just starting to become aware of. I was reading, I forget, it was a Silicon Valley programmer, right? And this guy was, he had something go viral 6 months back because he published his work schedule, and he did about 3 days of real work in finance tech. For 3 months of employment. And it wasn't because he didn't want to work. He would ask for the work, but the managers wouldn't give it to him because they can't have someone outperform everybody else, because there's this sort of insidious malaise that set in where everyone got really comfortable with their avocado toast, and I call them the tech latte crowd, right? You get your free massages, your avocado toast, and you do very little work, and nobody wants to say that they're doing very little work, and they pad all their deadlines in their scrum meetings, and they do this because they want to continue their comfortable life. And nobody wants to speak up, and a manager doesn't want to say anything because the manager wants a comfortable life too. So when the money was easy, you could get away with this stuff, and the money was pouring in, just pouring in. It was crazy. Salaries were doubling in Silicon Valley. It was crazy. And so there is a productivity crisis out there too that's affecting this as well. That's why you have such bloat in tech teams. That's why Twitter was so bloated. That's why I suspect many AAA teams are this bloated, and are not, they can't deliver much more than a AA funded studio in terms of interactivity, but they pad it out. And the other thing that happens in games is things got very political when the money came in, and middle managers wanted more power in discussions. And this happened at Blizzard. And my friends were telling me about it, and they're saying, Mark, you're so lucky you're not here anymore. Because as these departments battled each other, how do you get more power and influence? Well, you have to manage more people. Your rank is determined by how many people you manage. And so they would go out and hire and hire and hire to get their head count up so that they could have more interdepartmental power. It was absolutely disgusting what was happening.
Burning shareholder capital in the process, and that was the problem.
Absolutely.
You had so many people working in these jobs that didn't need to be there. These were, let's face it, because look, where was Twitter? San Francisco. What is San Francisco full of besides homeless bum shit on the streets? It's full of a bunch of overgrown adult children, trust fund babies that have jobs that they frankly don't deserve, salaries they haven't earned, and there's 3 times, 4 times more people working in a place like that than need be. But that's the culture that's been cultivated. The good thing is now that all these guys have been fired since that point, they did find subsequent work on college campuses at pro-Palestinian rallies. But that's another day. Now they've been fired from that as well in many places. So they can just keep rolling on all they want. So anyway.
We went too far, and I did this too at my studios. I was like, okay, we have an open tiki bar. There's a kegerator. The rule was you can drink, but don't get drunk. We had, massages brought, all this sort of stuff. And the perks were just everywhere. And the VC loved it. They they liked it too, and the money was easy, and they want you to spend the money, as I mentioned before. And we got way too soft. When I started at Blizzard, it was completely different. You arrived, and your first task was to build your own desk from IKEA. That was your first job. It didn't matter who.
And that was too much for most of those kids.
They not today. Oh my God! You try that today, they'll be like, what is this? You can't treat me like this.
What do you think's happened on the other side of this? For everybody, I want to hear this from Flash too. I'm curious because gamers themselves, we saw all this happening, but gamers recently, they've just been like, fuck this. I'm done. I'm not dealing with this crap anymore. You will do this or you will do that, or we're not going to open our wallets anymore. What do you think's changed?
Well, the games stopped being fun, and they were being asked to pay more money and more money for less and less gameplay. And again, I think that when there was stimulus checks flying around, nobody much was bothered by that. But now when we're having inflation and costs are rising and people have to make decisions about their entertainment, that's when they're starting to get real angry. And that is unfortunately leading to some blackpilling out there. There's gamers that they feel very hopeless about it. And so I think a really pivotal moment came about with a game called Helldivers, where the community pushed back on Sony having this extra requirement of linking a Sony account to your PC game. And gamers collectively got together and formed a voice and were able to push back on that within 48 hours. And I think that helped a lot. And that's something we need to see more of. And before that happened, I talked about, listen, when game companies are in this situation and the chips are down, you have the strongest voice out there. Don't buy AAA games that abuse you monetarily or they're infested with this ESG DEI stuff, and the industry will respond. They have no choice to respond. So to anyone, any gamer out there that's feeling depressed about the state of the industry, give it time and vote with your wallet, and things will change. They have to.
I mean, I saw the kick up. The first thing I saw was the Suicide Squad game. You know, that's where people got, I don't know, it got loud. And then, of course, you had Stellar Blade, and then you had the Helldivers stuff. I mean, it's like it's been like watching people, you know, step up just a little bit more and a little bit more. And the outrage has gotten louder and louder as it's, you know, as people, well, like you said, they're asked to spend money that they, maybe they have. I don't feel like a lot of people have the money to spend on when you got, you know, games that are costing $70 freaking dollars, and you know they're
for
talking
quadruple A games. Thank you, Ubisoft. We're not triple A. We're worth the money because we're quadruple A.
quadruple A.
It's
That's
like
amazing.
it's like when something about Mary, 4-minute abs, obviously superior to 5-minute abs. You know, it's you add an extra A on, the game's going to be better.
I kind of wonder if they fired all the DEI departments. I mean, maybe they could sell the games for $60 instead of 70, and they'd make 3 times the profits. That might be a good idea. Just a thought.
Well, it definitely is hampering productivity at some studios. Ubisoft is unfortunately extremely infested, and so is Activision, to the point where every sort of game feature that you come up with has to be run through the DEI department for approval and checks. And you can't believe the amount of drag that causes, because the speed at which you need to produce features for a game is very high. And if you have to run everything through a small DEI department that doesn't understand game development and only wants to check boxes, you're going to slow down game development tremendously. So yeah, I think if you fire the DEI departments, which I think every company needs to figure out how to do, every CEO out there is already thinking about, how do I do this in a way that isn't obvious? They're thinking about it.
There's the other side of profitability too. I mean, when we looked at controversies where people did vote with their wallets, things like a Harry Potter game, I seem to remember making money hand over fist, where people were like, yeah, I just want to play a game and fuck your backlash. We're going to actually put money into it because, well, this looks like a fun game.
Yeah. Crazy how that worked out for them. 1.5 billion in retail sales later.
It was a good game too. You know, I sat down and I played it with the kids. You know, I enjoyed it myself. The kids I mean, everyone enjoyed it. That's kind of what you wanted from that. Now, again, you know, I enjoy my horror games or whatever. I enjoy my own games. But, I mean, that was something that when you look at the controversy had nothing to do with the game. It had everything to do with all of the elements that we're talking about, people, you know, putting into the games. They want to shove in, or they want to add on riders. You know, you must meet this to make this game. Like, I mean, it's wild to look at with all that was about J.K. Rowling, really.
Well, that backlash is really powerful because gamers have been told that they're shitty people for 10 years now. You know, and people are sick of it, and people are sick of being preached to by politics in games and told that they're awful. And so, you know, you don't put money into people and products that hate you. But, you know, gamers are also very forgiving. Harry Potter has a lot of DEI stuff in it, right? And it still did really well because people were primarily angry that the woke mob had latched onto it and tried to cancel a good game, and had tried to, you know, cancel streamers who were streaming it, cancel developers who said anything about buying a copy, let alone what your politics are, just buying a copy. And people were fed up with the woke mob mentality that was going out and canceling everybody. And so what you had there is, I think, a combination of it. Hey, it's a decent game, and people are angry because of what they see developers and their favorite streamers being dragged through. and they wanted to push back on that. That's what propelled Harry Potter.
It was amazing too to see people canceled for playing a game. You know, again, we've heard for a long time, like you said, gamers are awful. Like you and I were talking before this, like your biggest controversial tweet was,
gamers are good.
Yeah.
I said gamers are inherently good. And and before gaming was popular, we were the ones that were bullied, and the reason, and people lost their minds. It's always the weirdest stuff that triggers people. I said gamers are good. It went viral on Twitter, and oh boy, it was against the narrative. That's what it was. They had carefully woven this narrative back in GG1 that gamers are awful people, and they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear that gamers were good. And believe it or not, that was probably one of my most controversial tweets of all time.
Well, you look at these companies, and they all have the same problem. They listen to extremely small, isolated, yet incredibly vocal and, frankly, well-funded political action groups that come in there and tell them that, hey, you know what? All that shit that's been making you money all these years, yeah, it's bad. You need to stop doing that and listen to us. I don't know if y'all saw this. In the last week, Disney basically canceled Tinkerbell. Did y'all see this one?
I heard about that, but
okay. So Tinkerbell's not appropriate anymore. You can still see Tinkerbell flying off the castle in Disney World during the fireworks show. You can still see Tinkerbell riding on the float with the Peter Pan crew during one of the Disney parades. But you can't really go see Tinkerbell in a meet and greet anymore, like so many kids did for so many decades. The reason is because Disney's DEI group, the Story Matters group, which is a group run by, let's face it, a bunch of, fat, ugly, angry, lonely cat women, decided that Tinkerbell's a problem because she would offend people because she's body conscious, meaning that she's attractive and thin, and that might not work out. So they've actually started removing this stuff. This is how screwed up these companies are these days.
Holy crap.
You can go read the story yourself. I'll post a link in the private chat if you want to pull it up. But there's all this kind of crap out there nowadays. Society is being dictated to by the lowest common denominator. Society is being dictated to by the angry, woke, white, liberal woman. Basically the most cancerous voting bloc in America today that has caused most of the societal destruction, if not all of it, in the last couple of years. So, I mean, this is what we're dealing with, and it's in entertainment and it's in gaming. The same stuff that we see, like all the crap that they did, destroying people's avatars in Pokemon Go. Like Savvy's talked about that. We've all had Savvy on the show talking about this, how absolutely depressed she was at what was done. And you're talking about, in some cases, people that spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, customizing their avatar over the years. Think about all the people out there. Like, if you don't play Pokemon Go, if you're somebody that plays Fortnite and you've got battle passes and all this crap, and you've spent money, lots of money, hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars over the course of the last several years, building different character sets and whatnot in Fortnite, and all of a sudden you woke up tomorrow and all of your avatars in Fortnite were fat, ugly trans people. That's what happened to people playing Pokemon Go. So this is the kind of crap we all have to deal with now. This is where it is. This is where we are. It affects gaming. It affects Hollywood. It's all the same. We're all in the same fight, guys and girls.
Don't mess with people's avatars. People sink so much time into collecting their looks, their gear, buying skins, spending money on this stuff. It's an investment not just of money, but an immense amount of time invested. And so we're always very careful when we decide, okay, we want to update the characters to make them look better, for example, like in WoW, right? That has to be approached very, very carefully. But they don't care anymore. They'll go in with a battle axe and, you know, lop off your breasts and hips. And they just don't care anymore. And it's always, you're right. It's a small minority in these companies but they're very they love to be organized and have their meetings, and they get together on their little private Facebook groups and then their Slack message boards. And then they, within the company, they propose that they want to start a group to start, for noble purposes, which is really just a power play. And they don't have to threaten the entire company. All you have to do, and Sweet Baby Inc.'s founder put it very succinctly, it's like you just have to go to the head of marketing or PR and tell them what happens to them as an individual if they don't play ball. Okay.
I'm looking at that Tinkerbell thing while we're talking. It's so crazy.
And that's all you have to do is you got to find the one decision maker and say, gee, wouldn't it be awful if you were canceled? I can't imagine how horrible that would be for you. And that's how it starts. You don't have to have power over the entire company. They quickly figured out that in the Me Too era and everything else, they could single out individual decision makers and apply an immense amount of social pressure on them.
It's amazing how easy it is to cancel a person too. That's one thing that I don't know. Maybe I was a little naive when I started this. I'm not sure, or maybe we saw the development of Me Too. We saw Twitter being used. I'm going to say there was more and more organization about canceling somebody, and when all these forces came together, I mean, all it took was a little blowback or a certain type of accusation, and you were done. And it's quite astounding.
Do you remember one of the earliest cases of cancellation were two guys, programmers, making a dongle joke at a tech conference, and they got canceled over that? Do you remember that? That's all it took.
That's crazy, man.
It was a joke about USB dongles. That's the eggplant emoji. We can't have eggplants anymore.
So all the way back, I do actually remember the dongle conversation. Actually, I was like, yeah, it took me a minute. I was like, yeah, I remember a controversy about dongle, and yeah, it took me a minute.
What about the guy that worked at JPL that wore an anime shirt?
Oh gosh! And it was made by a woman, and they were
like,
oh my god, yeah.
And he was, and they were like, "There's such a momentous scientific undertaking, and this man destroyed it single-handedly, and made everyone feel unsafe." And that was the go-to point, right? They equated dongle jokes and shirts with violence. All right, this was the mantra. It's like, this is getting people killed, and people say, "Oh, Grummz, you've got a bounty on your head. Aren't you being overly dramatic? Isn't this hyperbole?"
Speech is violence, Grummz. Don't you know that? Speech is violence.
But these are the same people that said, "You will get me killed if you tell a dongle joke."
Oh man, I saw the funniest article talking about violence. Let me find this real fast. Oh God, I've seen some crazy headlines. I mean, we see them every single day, but my God, check this out. So I saw this floating around yesterday. Men are creating AI girlfriends and then verbally abusing them. I threatened to install the app and she begged me not to. So apparently, yeah, you're going to get canceled for uninstalling an app and hurting the AI's feelings.
Oh man, do you remember when some gamer was bricking up their Sims in The Sims in the house and basically putting them in walls until they starved?
Oh man, I remember doing all kinds of horrible things to Sims. That's used to be it's what we see in GTA. Hey, how many people can you, or how many people can I shoot or just run around and randomly hit?
Oh wow, people are worried about the next GTA, man. GTA 6. They're worried about what's going to happen, because it was marketed for its edginess, right? Mm-hmm. You take that away, it better be a good game, because if the gameplay isn't there and they take away all the edginess and smooth all the corners, it's like, I thought I saw an early Onion article that was filling the Grand Canyon with bouncy balls so no one would get hurt. That's where we are now. That's literally where we are now.
Let me pull this. The Nerd District you actually shared here. I want to pull that up real fast. The Tinkerbell one. I mean, that's wild. It's wild, but nothing's safe anymore. I mean, honestly.
No, that's how crazy it is. Yeah. I mean, this is the base of the story. Tinkerbell, unfortunately, has become a problematic image for our guests, specifically young girls, specifically in terms of the portrayal of an unrealistic body image, as well as dependency of approval and or attention from Peter Pan. As seen in previous incarnations of the character, we feel these traits are no longer representative of our inclusive, focused values, and thus are currently in process of redesigning an updated Tinkerbell for modern audiences.
Oh no!
So in other words,
updated Tinkerbell.
Tinkerbell's dead and gone.
It's probably also because she doesn't talk, right?
Where is the representation for hot women? Where is the representation for good-looking girls? Where is the representation for normal women? We don't get to have that anymore. No. Representation only applies to angry, miserable, depressed, fat, ugly women nowadays. I swear to God, I don't know what else it is, but that's all I see anymore. Is the representation has to matter for those women. Meanwhile, I know I do, and probably most of us on this panel, we have a lot of friends who are women. We know a lot of women who don't fall into this category. Where is the representation for real women? Somebody help me with this one.
My wife won't play a game unless there's attractive female characters in it. She has no interest in playing a troll. Look, games are and entertainment are fantasies, right? It's where we get to project ourselves, and for guys, we get to have the six-pack abs and wield a battle axe, and women want to look beautiful. They want to look great, doing fighting dragons and doing everything that we do. But so this is a completely false narrative, and you're right. It comes from a minority of very embittered people who we have entertained for far too long, and it's time to stop.
It's going to be very difficult, though, to shove them out. That's going to be a long process. And in today's world, here's one of the problems: people they don't really have the attention span for it. That's why I've been really impressed by what's been going on with gaming, because it continues. And it continues to build momentum. When you're the free Stellar Blade, the push, I mean, all the people that are still part of that are still promoting that. In an age where people oftentimes can't pay attention for 8 seconds, that's impressive. But it's going to take a lot of time to change industry, in my opinion.
Hey, yeah. I'm back. I had something to take care of.
Hey, welcome back. Yeah, yes and no. It takes a lot of time because it's everywhere. Because it's not just in games and movies. It's literally the pervasive, approved discussion that you can have, right? The Overton window. But on the other hand, these people are some of the least productive people in these industries. The writers suck. They don't make as many game assets
True.
as people who are driven and motivated, and this is being used as the metric for layoffs right now. We've had well over 30,000 layoffs in the game industry since Q4 of last year. It's probably up to 45,000 right now, and I can tell you that studio heads are targeting productivity as a metric, and they know it has a knock-on effect towards activists, because activists are all about quiet quitting. Activists are all about working from home. Activists are all about lowering productivity because high productivity is abusive. And so they know. And you're going to start to see this because the rubber has to hit the road, and this is the time. So this is really the time to get active and to push back. There is no better time to do so than right now.
High productivity is racist, not abusive. Get it right, Grummz.
Oh, that too. That's why Asians are.
So, are you guys going to play Final Fantasy 16 when it comes to Steam soon?
Yeah, I probably
16?
will. Anything that comes to PC. Yeah,
I probably
try
will. Yeah, I'll try
Okay.
it out.
I heard it
Why
was
not?
good.
Yeah.
I mean, I played it on PS5. I mean, I enjoyed it. So
I haven't played it.
What would you compare it to?
I'm probably not the right person to ask that because I don't do that much gaming. I mean, Final Fantasy iterations, probably one of the few things I still really play because I've been playing Final Fantasy since '87 when the first one came out. I still have my original copy, NES box, instructions and all.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, no, I've still got all the OG Square stuff.
I'm looking for a copy of that game, but I don't want to pay a lot, and I don't want it to look like shit. So,
You know, mine's original owner in mint. I'm never gonna. They can bury me with that shit. So
I don't.
No, I
I
was
don't
a
have
huge
anything in
fan.
mint, but man, I've been hauling out some of my original games all the way back to like my early Mario 1, 2, and 3. My Zelda.
oh yeah.
Just it's amazing. Just live long enough, everything becomes antique.
It does.
I'm trying
Dude,
to collect
I've got
my
like 60 or
favorites.
70 Atari 2600 cartridges behind me. So yeah, I mean, I've kept everything.
What are they doing with Combat Flash on 16? What system is that? Because I know that a lot of people on my Twitter feed, some of them are like, well, they're abandoning turn-based and they're going real-time. They're
Wait,
casualizing it too much.
What game?
Final Fantasy 16.
Fantasy 16.
Oh, 16? See,
Yeah.
I only played like an hour and a half of it, and I never went back. And it's not that it was a bad game. I just, something came up, and I didn't go back. I will eventually.
They have
finish
two
it.
modes, and I think it's kind of like what Stellar Blade did, if I'm not mistaken. So they have action mode and they have story mode, and which I thought was kind of cool because if you wanted to play it more like an OG Final Fantasy game, kind of slower paced, more turn based, you can do it that way, or you can flip to action mode where it's more engaging from a button push standpoint. So, I mean, you get the choice, which I kind of liked. I thought that was a clever initiative on Square's part to do that. But I mean, I've played them all since the first one, except for I think 11, which was online, and 14 that was online. Those are the only two I never got into because they were online games.
Well, I think one problem that AAA got themselves into was the over-casualization of games, and this is some of the concern that some of my fans have been talking about with the Final Fantasy series going forward. Is that
Well, I don't think the MMOs aren't very casual. Like, I get on there, and I don't really like having to do a lot of the crafting stuff. This is why I like games like PSO. Don't really make you do a lot of that.
Yeah, but I would argue that. Are you talking about 14?
Yeah, I don't like having jobs, and a lot of the quests are like, go get these arrows from this dude, and it's just fucking. I thought it was boring. To be honest, I've never really gotten into, like big MMOs because you have to like do the same thing over and over again.
Well, I mean, 14 is nice because there's so many different activity paths that you can advance along. It doesn't. You don't have to do the crafting at all if you don't want to. There's an epic fishing system in Final Fantasy 14 and a fishing, quote unquote raid where you go on the boat, and I love doing that. So MMOs are a little bit of a different breed because there's a lot of different ways to approach it, and it's sort of like a game of games. And 14 does a good job, I think, of catering to a lot of different play styles. But those are MMOs, and if you get to other games, I think there is an over-casualization because you had to appeal to such a wide market. The market grew so big and encompassed so many people. That's all AAA focused on, and they were spending such huge budgets that they had to sort of like water everything down. And I think one thing that we're realizing is that it doesn't have to be that way. Look at the success of difficult games like Elden Ring,
I love Elden Ring.
Or any of the Souls games. you can up the difficulty and you can focus on niche topics, even Armored Core, and still do very well.
Oh, Armored Core is great.
You shouldn't put a gigantic AAA tentpole budget behind it. But I think we were doing too much of that. We were chasing that way too much, and we felt pressure from the mobile crowd. So
how much do you think it costs to make a game like Armored Core? Like Armored Core 6. What do you think it costs to make Armored Core 6?
Oh, nowhere near the 100 to 150 or 200,000 that you would do for Suicide Squad. I would say that probably 60 to 80, maybe closer to 60. It'd be interesting. Let me look that up. What was Armored Core's budget?
I feel like it probably made that back.
Yeah,
I think that's why there's 6 of them.
I don't know, man. I play more and more roguelites and shit like that, these days. I find myself drifting to Switch games and fucking roguelites.
Yeah, I don't see any disclosure here on the budget, but it's certainly not what these tentpole games are. Mainly because of cinematics. That's one of your biggest expenses, is when you have AAA games that are basically like interactive movies, and you have a lot of cinematics to do. That's where a lot of your costs go towards art. And I think it should go the other direction.
How much do you think Helldivers cost?
I think that's a AA game. I think that you're looking at under $50 million, maybe $30 million for a game like that.
Bank then.
And it just blew the doors off. Yeah. I think you can do it for a lot less. And I wish studios would do this, where they would take their $100 million, $200 million budget tentpole game that's sucking and cancel it, and then divide that budget up into a bunch of $30 million experiments to see what takes off, and to have the guts to take some hits there in order to discover the next billion-dollar franchise.
Okay.
Because it only takes one. It's just like venture capital, right? You only need one of these companies to really take off to pay for everything else.
I wonder, though, if this whole situation has killed Helldivers. I've not gone back to the game myself since all that stuff went down. I broke the habit of playing it, and that crushed it.
Because there's those 177 countries they still can't purchase the game.
Well, they say it was always intended to put that in there from the beginning. Then why was it for sale in those countries in the first place?
I think that's left hand not talking to right. I think what happened was they didn't expect the game to get that popular. You have a smaller budget. You have a smaller team. PSN linking was like not working. All right. PSN, that's what the CEO said. It's like, hey, we had a technical issue at the time, and I made the call to say delink it. And the conversation, when your servers are on fire and your growth is explosive and you're trying to get people into the game, it's easy to overlook that and say, especially with, I think, the bureaucracy of Sony, that they didn't understand what was happening and at Sony, and they didn't realize that, linking later would be a problem. So they said, sure, go ahead. And they went ahead and they delinked it in Helldivers, and they got into this mess later. I just think that's just a monumental left-hand, right-hand communication issue, and not enough time to think ahead because of the explosive popularity. And you're not sleeping. When you have a launch like that and the demand is higher than you expect, none of us slept during WoW's launch, right? It was just, we'd stay awake 3 days in a row. There's so much happening around you to try to keep up with that demand and keep your customers satisfied that I can easily see something like that slipping through the cracks.
I wish I could have played WoW back in the day, but I just didn't have anything that could run it.
We ran on toasters. What do you...
I did not have a very good computer.
We were the lowest system spec out there, quite deliberately.
I don't think my computer had a graphics card.
Oh, geez, yeah. Well, that was a decision. You can blame me for that, because I said, listen, we cannot support integrated graphics, because there was a huge bifurcation in capabilities, and on motherboard graphics, on chip graphics, it wasn't a case that we could slowly turn settings off and things like that and get it to run. No, it was either you're going to look like ass and still run at 10 frames a second, or you can have a game, and you had to choose. So I said, we can't do this. And I remember making the call to cut integrated graphics out of the support for that. But now
What's
you
the,
can.
what's
APUs now
the
are very powerful.
what's the Helldivers?
Oh, I could right now, but I mean, the game's been out for a long ass time, so I don't really want to jump in.
No, I mean APUs are powerful that you can run a lot of games on them just at lower resolutions. So if people out there have like this is kind of rare now, but like AMD came out with integrated graphics for a while, APUs that SKUs that you could get, as they still do actually, and almost every game will run on that. You're just going to be running at like 720p.
How is the Helldivers player base impacted by all of this? I haven't looked at the player base numbers.
They didn't take a hit, as far as I could see from Steam charts. But there definitely were refunds. So, but I was looking at the charts back then. I'll pull it up now and see where it's at now.
Yeah, I was curious about that. I haven't looked at it. I didn't know if anybody knew that.
The game had been steadily declining, because every game needs updates, right?
Sure.
So yeah, if you look at it over a 3-month time period, but from April 22nd to now, it's a negligible difference. I'd say about 15K difference. But yeah, I mean, it was already declining because it's waiting for its next major update and everything else. But when it hit, there was no sudden drop or anything like that in the player count. What there was a lot of refund requests on Steam, and I think that had a pivotal part of the decision making, plus all the negative reviews that were being thrown out there. But right now, its 24-hour peak is at 95, and when they launched, it was ridiculous. It was 300 and it peaked at like 400,000, and now it's peaking at 166 to 122. So that's a natural decline, though. I don't see any weird blip there.
I'd wondered if it. I remember people talking about the refunds, but like I said, I didn't look at the player base there. I'm looking at the insanity coming out of Microsoft too, man. I mean, you talk about, yeah, we bought all of this. We spent insane amounts of money, but hey, we gotta shutter some doors. Quite a few of them, losing. I was not happy about hearing about Evil Within 3. I actually wanted that game quite a bit.
Yeah, you're not going to see that game.
I know, that pissed me off, man. I loved fucking Evil Within. A lot of people have been waiting for a fucking third one.
Well, we talked about this on Flashcast. What you saw there was a big content play because they thought they were going to be the Netflix of gaming, right? Streaming services were all the rage a couple years ago. They thought that this is where games were headed. Google thought that too with Stadia, however you pronounce it.
Oh, that was hilarious to watch.
The magic lag.
Absolutely hilarious.
And so when you build a subscription service like this, the thing that you're thirsty for is content, because you need an endless stream of content to keep people engaged in your subscription service, and you need exclusives in order to grow it. And so this looks to me like the classic streaming play where you invest heavily in acquiring studios and content to fill your subscription service, but it's a bet that didn't pay off. And they spent 80 to 100 billion dollars on this, and that's got to account for itself, right? It's got to account for itself, and it's not going to, because Game Pass combined is anywhere from 3.6 billion a year to maybe 4 billion a year. And when you've laid out 80 billion and your growth is single digit and flat, that ain't paying for itself. So that's why you saw Sarah Bond with such a long look on her face when she was, I'm sure.
No. Sarah Bond, she, her.
Oh, she, her. But do you realize that that's probably the first public time that anyone realized that Sarah Bond existed in Xbox?
Yes.
As president of Xbox?
I haven't thought about her in a long time. I always think of Phil Spencer.
They said, you go deal with this and you go talk to them.
Well, you always think of Phil Spencer, Like,
yeah,
really
Phil was gone.
The thing is,
this is yours.
Grummz, you just hit something there before I have to run it, because I was like, that was so brilliant. It's a great point you just made, and I want the audience to understand what you just get a grip around this. Is that all of these gaming companies felt like the subscription service is where it was going. They all thought it was going to be online subscription service, which a lot of people did. There's always the first person out of the gate in that regard, and then everybody else is hoping but never can catch up. It was the same thing in streaming. Netflix beat everybody to the punch. And everybody has been chasing Netflix ever since. Nobody's ever going to catch up to Netflix. I know Bob Iger likes to rub them out every morning thinking they're right behind Netflix and they're going to get them one day. It's never going to happen with Disney. Amazon, arguably the same thing. Gaming, Grummz, which you just said, it's an identical situation. Everybody right now is chasing, and I know it's not the same thing entirely, but everybody's chasing Steam.
And no one wants to be left behind.
Steam beats you to it, and it's over. Accept it. It's like, it's the Steam is the Netflix in the gaming world. I know it's not a monthly fee kind of thing, but they created this online environment for going to get the games, an online platform to play, buying it through their single source point system. They have a lot of original content, Steam exclusives, but they also license stuff from other major studios, just like Netflix does. And everybody else is now trying to figure out how do we become the next Steam.
Well, they
right?
tried. They tried to be Steam and sell their games on their own walled gardens. And when that didn't work, they looked at the explosiveness of streaming services during the great sheltering period. And they said, this is where it's going, and we're going to beat Steam that way.
Yep.
And we're going to take a monthly subscription. Well, how are we going to pay for all these games, and how are these games going to make revenue
I would never
pay for this?
I refuse to use the Epic Store. I think it's shit. If you want, if they pay for an exclusive game, I just don't pay it because I don't want to use their garbage platform. Actually make your platform as good as theirs, and I'll use it.
But Flash, it didn't matter because it was all about chasing subs, right? It was all about chasing signups.
I don't think it's working out for them,
That's it. You're totally 100% right. That's the point.
Yep. That's why
everybody in Wall Street
right
is waking up now to where chasing subs, even for Netflix, it doesn't matter. It's how profitable is it? What's the OI? What's the operating income? What's the profitability metric on these services? Everybody's out there chasing new signups, new subs, but they're not looking at what are the actual cash flows. What's the frickin' dollars worth? And we're seeing now in real time what Wall Street had to adjust to starting about a year, 2 years ago now, which I was saying before they were. I'm like, y'all got to wake up and realize that streaming isn't profitable.
Yep.
And you got to move from chasing subs to chasing dollars. The gaming industry, and this is the point of saying it, the gaming industry, Grummz, and I think you've been leading the pack on this, the gaming industry is now waking up to the same damn realization, and Wall Street won't be far behind. It's going to take you a little while, but they're starting to figure out that, well, wait, it's great to have like 2 million new signups from Microsoft, Xbox, service, whatever. But they're still losing money. They're still shedding cash in that division. It's not working. They're overspending on producing AAA content, and they're not getting the kind of ROI they need to justify this. We just saw this happen in the last year where Wall Street and a lot of news outlets were just chomping down on Disney all of a sudden for what they were spending on films that were all bombing because they were, $300-400 million. We just found out Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I told y'all this 2 years ago, cost over $400 million to complete. It didn't make money. Told you. They're figuring this out now with gaming. It's the same thing.
And it's bad. It's really bad. Look at the cost cutting that Microsoft Xbox division is doing. They cut BlizzCon. Okay, BlizzCon doesn't cost anywhere near as much as a AAA game, but they're cutting that out and they're not having that show come back. They won't tell you it's coming back next year. They don't know when it's going to come back. They cut studios like Hi-Fi Rush, right? And these are not huge studios. You're talking about a burn rate of maybe $2 million a month. So you're looking at, 24 million a year. If they have to cut that deeply, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And they are hoping and that games coming down the pike are going to make a change in Game Pass sales. This was entirely the fault of Game Pass and this huge bet on subscription-based game services that can't pay for themselves. Nope. And it's and I don't think many people realize that in the gaming community, but because they reap great benefits, right? Hey, for a low price, I get all these games. But I was saying for years, the napkin math doesn't work. Forget about knowing the internals.
The napkin
math just doesn't work.
I love it.
But everyone was chasing sub numbers because they were growing explosively. But for 2 years, it's been flat at Xbox. 2 years. Yeah. And all those executives, they know they're going to be rotated out very, very soon.
That's just it. Everybody looked towards getting the subs, but nobody was asking the questions anywhere nearly early enough in the process. How do we monetize this? You can bring all the people in you want, but nobody asked the question, how do we convert this to long-term sustainable operating income and cash flow and revenue?
Well, that's where it's going to get really ugly.
Oops. It's like, you mean we actually have to make really good games that people want? Fuck!
And they're going to have to charge more. Here's the thing that's going to happen is because games have one thing that Netflix doesn't have. They can monetize you in-game. They can sell you crap in-game. They can make it really, really onerous and really, really predatory. And that's what you're going to see happen is these execs get more and more desperate to make these game passes pay for themselves. Is gamers are going to be fleeced, and it's going to be ugly.
Yep. Not everybody can be, and not everybody likes it. That's fine. I don't care. Not everybody can be a Fortnite where microtransactions and things like that work. Those are not the rules. They're the exceptions. And not every game is going to have that kind of success, but a lot of people out there think that every game can turn into, from a revenue perspective, an ongoing diehard fandom revenue perspective, be a Pokemon Go, be a Fortnite or something like this. And it's just not. The world is out there and has been for, since the 70s, so almost 5 decades now spanning it. You go out to Toys R Us or you go out to Babbage's, who are now GameStop, whatever. Yeah, I used to love Babbage's. I'm sorry, I had to bring it up. But you'd go out to your game store, you'd go to Radio Shack, and you'd buy your video game, and you'd go home and you'd play it, 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 and you'd play it. There are subscription things out there that may work in professional work productivity environments. But when it comes to gaming, I get the distinct impression, just like those of us in the OG physical media types, I want to own my movies and my TV shows. I have a huge library of physical media content because I don't want anybody to take it away from me. That's how I want to operate.
It's over for that. It's over for that. PC gamers have been trained for a long time not to have physical, and most of the generation that's grown up now hasn't got into physical. So that's not a significant amount of people that are really going to impact anything, to be honest.
No, they're still downloading it, but I think people, even when they download it, I don't think most people don't want to have to turn around and just keep paying for it over and over again. I think there's a limited audience for that, and I think that's the problem that a lot of these game companies and studios are trying to figure out, that, we just don't have the breadth of library to where we're going to be able to command these.
Gamers definitely will pay for the same thing over and over again because, like, Resident Evil 4 remake was like the best-selling game for Capcom. They actually made a lot of money on that.
Awesome,
and it's different, but it's the same fucking game.
Oh man, it was beautiful though. I played that game so much.
Remasters, remakes.
There are some, like Final Fantasy VII, right? There are some games out there that can command that over and over.
Well, that's not a true remake.
Well, you're right, but it says Final Fantasy VII on it. But that's what I'm saying. I think there's a very limited scope for stuff like that when it comes to gaming because there's such an immense amount of it out there. that it's very easy for gamers
There's
to
a
just
reason
shift
that
gears
Call
and
of
go
Duty
find the next
comes
thing on
out
Steam.
every year. Madden, it's the same fucking game every
Those are
year.
exceptions. Yep. Those are the exceptions to the rule.
There's a lot of money to be made
Yeah.
doing that.
I think everybody got mesmerized by subs when they looked at things like Disney. You know, they saw, oh my God, this is so easy. You know, they didn't ask, like you said, the value of what those numbers meant. You know, because those numbers, when you get into that, geez, man, those numbers are, if they're not out and out lies. You know, if we're not talking about people that are on their 1 month trial, then, you know, all subs are not created equal in that anyway. You know, a person.
Well, it's what you're spending to acquire them. It's what you're spending to keep them there. Just like streaming, and they talked about, wow, Disney Plus brought in $4 billion of revenue.
Yeah.
Oh, crap, they spent $5 billion in the same quarter to keep people there. Well, this shit doesn't work. I mean, you know, so I think it's the same thing now in gaming. The problem is that Netflix, again, going back to that comparison, the reason I bring them up is because love them or hate them, Netflix produces not only a huge amount of content, but such a broad diversity of content, and enough of it that most people find very good and entertaining that they're making 25% profit margins on it. I mean, Netflix is almost making more profit now on 1/2 of the revenue that Disney does. To give you an idea, that's how big it is. So that's the key. Disney hadn't figured that out. Game studios have not figured that out. They're throwing a lot of spaghetti against the wall, but virtually none of it's sticking, I guess is the bottom line. And for the ones especially that they're spending $200-300 million in CapEx, capital expenditure, to invest in, that are going under, because, you know, games are, if they don't have a hot opening weekend or a hot sale right up front, the game's going down.
Speaking of gamers, did you guys see the Sony reaction? Apparently, Sony PlayStation gamers are just the same as, you know, civil rights era black people.
I saw you share
The same
that.
struggle.
Oh shit!
The same struggle.
Need to pull that.
Gamers are truly the most oppressed.
There's not enough traffic for
There
these
you go.
motherfuckers to go play in.
Yeah, here it is.
God.
Oh, look at that. PS5.
Oh my God.
What?
Wait.
Now, here's
Why?
the thing. Hold on a second. Here's the thing. I wonder if this is a troll engagement farmer as well. Because this is fucking over the top crazy.
It has to be.
Really,
Why
come
of all
on.
the Flash, why of all the years did he say 1939? Think about this, people. Why of all the years did he say black people in 1939 USA? There were bigger problems in 1939, namely in Poland and Bavaria and Austria. And for Jews, somewhere else, it wasn't in the... Why of all years do you pick 1939 for this comparison?
I don't know, but the struggle is real, fellow Sony PlayStationers.
Oh.
The struggle is real.
Wow.
I saw that when you posted it. I was like, holy crap, man. I caught a little bit of the Vtuber banning too. What was their name? Kirsche?
Kirsche. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. I'm gonna pull up there because they gave some examples of why.
I think she was on she was on Tuesday night main event, I think last week with Jeremy and all those guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy when you get down to the why. You know, they're like, this is why I got banned, because of a few opinions here, a few jokes, you know, like got to notice that YouTube added pronoun to their creator profiles. I'm glad that as part Italian, my preferred pronoun of A is available in the initial drop. There's a notice that says to stay tuned for the addition of new pronouns as well. So, you know, and I mean, you can tell, obvious joke. It got traffic. It got about 16,000 embedded views on that. And yeah, it's amazing. Something like that can get you banned out of cons now.
Yep.
What kind of con is this again? By the way, so it's like it's an online con. I'm still trying to like understand what's going on. So it's an online convention.
Was it focused on VTubers or?
Well, that's what I don't know. I don't know much about this con. I just heard about this for the first time, like over the weekend, like what's going on with this. And like, what kind of con is a VTuber doing? Because if they walk around, like you'd have to roll them around like on one of those AV carts from school. They can't really attend the con. So like, what is this, an online convention, or do people actually go somewhere? Like, so someone go to this, and then
you could make
a panel they could do easy, because you just have the screen, and that'd be fine. So like, that's one I don't know. I don't know the details of this con. Maybe somebody in the chat will.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Will say.
That'd be so strange to get banned from a freaking online con of every day.
Guys, I apologize. The weather's getting pretty funky over here.
I appreciate you popping in, brother.
Wild storms, so I'm a little worried that I'd be losing power and internet soon. It's that time of year here in southeast Louisiana. So y'all can look at a radar and see what I'm talking about right now.
Oh, yeah. Looks bad.
Flash, thanks. It was good to see you. Grummz, good to see you. And, of course, Tug, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, brother.
Dude.
Anytime, man.
You should stick around.
Brazing Industries in the chat says that I should have asked her. That's right. I talked to her today. I should have asked her, but I forgot. I didn't think about it.
There you go. All right, guys. Thunder's getting pretty loud.
Right.
Thanks. Right. Y'all stick around.
See you, man.
Hail Tug. Hail Flash. Hail Grummz. Good to see you guys. Love y'all. Take care.
Catch you later.
Yeah, the storms hammering are bad, man. We got hit pretty hard out here last week. We ate a few trees over here. My kids have a full-size trampoline. It was weird. It was on one side of the house as far as it could get from this other place where it ends up. And when I looked outside, it wrapped it around a tree, and it was so deformed, I had no idea what the heck it was. I was like, what the heck is that? Is that a tent? Where did that come from? What exactly is that? And yeah, it's been pretty bad. I mean, a lot of people had it worse, but man, we had a lot of water damage and other stuff. Thankfully, everybody was okay, but it looks pretty bad for Valiant out there.
Yeah, I take it seriously because I had a game deadline where I had to upload files to the publisher by a certain date, and we were working from home. It's one of my first games for Interplay that I was working on, and a lightning storm took out my internet connection at the last moment, and I had to run to Best Buy to get another modem in order to upload the files in time. So every time there's a little thunder and lightning, I'm unplugging everything.
That happened when I started out early on. I had lightning take out one of my computers, and it was even on a.
I just one little.
I've got an interruption real quick.
That's a cute one.
Middle and now the
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, well, hey, go upstairs for a few minutes, okay? Your teeth are all brushed up. Hey, here's the regular one. You want to take that?
Okay.
All right. Okay, go upstairs. Love you.
Where did you find
Okay.
it?
Love you. Go upstairs.
Where did you find
It was in my bag.
Oh.
All right, love you. She's 4. She likes the microphone. She's like, ooh, the microphone is shiny,
That was an adorable cameo.
Yeah, she loves, like I said, she loves it. She's like, hey, Dad. She finds a reason to come down here. She's like, ooh, people are on the thing talking. Yeah, I mean, this stuff that, like these posts, what really gets me is how innocuous some of these statements are. I mean, right now, we were talking about people getting canceled over nothing earlier on. And, I mean, this stuff, I don't know VTuber culture that well. So I don't know how, how rare something like this is. But a lot of this stuff compared to, a lot of people that run in our circles, I'm like, this stuff, this is something someone would post on, say, a Friday. No big deal, but there it got you banned from a con.
Well, what happened was, cons are notoriously woke, right? And this has happened.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're largely volunteer run. And what happened was apparently a couple of volunteers spoke up and said they didn't feel safe. And that's the code word for your opinions. I don't want your opinions aired. And all you have to do is say, I don't feel safe because, this person appearing as a cartoon avatar saying words is going to get me killed. It's literally their argument. And so that's all it takes is and there's so there's so much groupthink going on. I mean, these cons will just turn on a dime and ban anyone for anything if those magic words are spoken. It's terrible.
I thought about applying to every con to see how many I could get banned from, for nothing. I thought that one was
I'll
fun.
tell you, they'll never invite me back at GDC. I'll guarantee that.
I don't know, man. I was watching some of this Flash you were on with what was it, Side Scrollers?
Was it today? Yeah.
Yeah. So they're talking about this somewhat. So I started looking up. I was curious what again, what's bad enough to get you banned as a VTuber. And I thought, this is all it took. Wow, that's amazing. But like you said, Grummz, when people start throwing around the words, they don't really say what it's for. They just say, oh, you make me feel unsafe. I'm worried about my safety. And bam.
Yeah, but
look, the dreaded Tim Pool.
Yep. See the beanie?
Ooh.
Oh, she quote tweeted Tim Pool.
Yeah, and it looks like they're fine. So DEI isn't dying and we haven't won. I've been talking about Bridge for months and even linked my findings to Timcast and others for more coverage. Don't celebrate when we're still in the war. We can win, but we need to stay vigilant and not rest on our laurels that don't even exist. And that got 51,000 embedded views too, 2,000 likes, and of course that's the wrong type of likes, right?
Yeah, the likes that get you banned from cons.
Yeah. It's just amazing.
I've seen people get shit just for liking something. Was it
Yeah.
Carol Lynn? Remember that whole shit? She was just excited for Hogwarts Legacy.
Yep.
Right.
Or like, well,
Yep.
we got to fire you. That was a fucked up situation, man.
That's why I brought that up earlier. That whole Hogwarts Legacy, I think it opened a lot of people's eyes to just how insane gaming companies, I mean, people are, but you saw a lot of people that were attached to gaming companies speaking out. We're used to, I hate to call them press, gaming press or comics press. We're used to those people being fucking batshit crazy. But when you see the companies actually, showcasing their work, they all seem to be the same. We've dealt, like Flash and I, we dealt with Marvel and we dealt with Disney, we dealt with Warner. I draw the difference. I know Marvel's part of Disney, but I mean, we dealt with Disney overall, and then we dealt specifically with the comic people for years. And I mean, all of those people are crazy, but I've never paid so much attention to gaming as I have over the last few years. And that, I don't know, maybe it shouldn't be eye-opening. Maybe I should expect it in every company, but I think a lot of people, a lot of normies especially, have been introduced to that idea.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. That opened a tremendous amount of eyes because people don't know the controversy around Harry Potter for the most part.
Yeah.
You have to be on the line.
I love J.K. Rowling. Now, I used to not like her, but like she's fighting an important fight. So I really like what she's doing with that. Like today, was it the other day? She's like, somebody's like, she said this is a middle-aged bloke. Or some shit, and
Oh yeah,
I'm like, where's the lie here? This guy looks like he's, fucking hanging out in a footballer pub.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? In England.
I think she was quoted in the press as compared them to a middle-aged, and she was like, I said they were. So
Yep.
She came out and just put that on blast. I was like, damn.
I love that she just doesn't give a fuck. And that's like the number one thing that they're trying to push is all that bullshit now. And she's just like, I don't give a shit. And they can't do anything to her. Like, she just keeps getting more and more work. because she has creative control over Harry Potter. So
Yep.
you want to do that TV show, motherfucker? Well, I'm going to be there for it. I'm going to be supervising it. You need my approval. She has them by the balls because that franchise makes so much money. They just refuse to let it go. Shows you how moral they really feel about what they say, you know?
Yeah, it's all about the dollars. Always has been.
What was fascinating, you know, we saw in movies, they thought that her control was ebbing a little bit. You know, with Fantastic Beasts, they thought,
Oh, no.
you know, they thought,
And look at her. That's one thing that they disagree with her on. Like, she retroactively made characters gay, okayed Hermione being black in that play. Well, I never said she was white. But she disagrees with them on one thing, and look how they throw her into the fire.
well, that's
It's
the difference.
crazy.
I mean, like all of us, we all disagree on all kinds of shit all the time. We argue about it on panels, and you know, at the end of the day, who gives a crap? You know, a lot of us, at best, you know, we're friendly, but a lot of us are friends too. You know, we chill and hang out after streams or do whatever, play games together, and you know, and it's just amazing to me.
People don't reject what she says. Most people agree with her, and that's why I think part of the reason why we were talking about Hogwarts Legacy, why that game made so much money, is it was to send a fuck you to everybody that was crying about this shit, and saying, okay, well, we're gonna make this game successful. I personally bought 3 copies.
I think that was a wake up call for the left, the blue hairs on Twitter. You know, when they saw that backlash on Harry Potter and the game journalists saw the backlash there, they were like, oh no, is our power slipping away? Are we the baddies? You know, I think that was, and I think they're scared now. I think they're scared that they realize the tide is turning, and that's causing them to be more and more strident too.
Look at people tuning out of Doctor Who.
Oh,
50% decrease in viewers from when they started going down this road for the Christmas special. It's insane.
I just watched
Massive drop. They said, fuck off, fans, and they did.
Yeah, I was watching his Disparu's episode reviews, and I was like, holy crap, is this what happened? You know, I watched all the Doctor Who's. I watched all the old Who's. I went on a marathon, and I watched all the new Who's, and then I really dropped off when, you know, when it all went to hell, you know? I tried tuning in on a Whittaker episode. I just couldn't do it.
I don't know. They lost me on Doctor Who well before this, so I couldn't even get into this, you know. I mean, they had a good product for a long time, and then
They told me to watch it. I'm not, why would I watch it? You know, like, I know where it ends. I know where it ends.
Yeah.
It's like if I was new to Star Wars, I wouldn't get into it because I know where it ends.
Yeah.
Well, that's ultimately, you know, a lot of these companies have to wake up to the idea that sooner or later, when they bounce toward looking at dollars, looking at profitability, who's left? You know, with gaming, of course, I mean, you've got money there. But I mean, like niche products like a Star Wars, you know, again, it's a huge commodity, but one of the things it's built on is an aging demographic that they have to pass it on to their kids. My kids, they can give a shit less about Star Wars because I haven't really wanted them to, you know.
Yeah.
No, speak of the kids, you know. You 1 minute.
Still sings, but
Thank you. All right, can you go upstairs?
Well, I got a question for you guys. What should I be watching these days? What's good?
X-Men 97, if you like that, is really good.
so long and
Yeah, I remember. You guys were talking about that a lot. I should
I
catch
really
that.
like that. It's almost out. I think this week is the last episode.
Those numbers, though, they were crazy for their viewership numbers.
But if you've never seen I know it's bad. If you've never seen the original, you should start that and watch that. It's still good. It's a little more uncensored now. You know, back then it's pretty tame, but the stories are there and they're really good. So,
What do you mean by the original?
X-Men 92.
X-Men 92. Okay.
Yeah, because X-Men 97 is the sequel to 92.
So start
because
there.
there's like 5 seasons, I think.
5 seasons. So
That's amazing
not
to
quite
watch.
as bad as One Piece.
No,
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 none
no,
of that.
no, nothing like that. No, you get set down and you'll enjoy it. You know, I mean that everybody thought they would drop the ball on 96. Everybody, and you know, I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, maybe I should have given the benefit of the doubt." No, you shouldn't have. You know, I mean, this was like one of those unicorns. Yeah, everything that they said, it made you think that they were going to wreck X-Men, but they made a pretty good product. I've been catching up on that finally. Yeah, I was surprised by it. I avoided it for the longest time until a lot of people that I valued their opinions. They were like, "Yeah, you should watch this. It's actually really good."
All right, I'll definitely check that out.
I've been watching shows like I watched Shogun. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I got to finish that. I like it though, from what I've watched. You know.
I can't believe they were going to season 2. That's what somebody on Flashcast was saying.
How many episodes in Shogun?
10 maybe. Is that right?
Okay, so
I mean, it's a short show, and they, again, no spoilers. I'm not going to ruin this for anybody, but
well, I read the book. I watched the original 1970s version.
So, I mean, if you've read it, they do a really good job of following along with the books. They do a great job with that. Yeah.
I love to hear that. That's so refreshing.
See, this second season will be all original material.
Yeah, it'll be off the books. That's when
That's
you get
scary.
into a problem, because, I mean, I'm afraid they're going to Game of Thrones that up. They've been making all the comparisons of Game of Thrones. Here, I watched Ripley on Netflix. This really threw me. I didn't see anybody really talking about this. So, have you ever seen The Talented Mr. Ripley? Have either of you seen that movie? Okay, Ripley.
A long time ago. I don't even remember it. Wasn't it a lawyer movie?
No, he's a con man. He was a con man.
I'm thinking of that movie where, because is it Matt Damon in that?
Yeah.
So, but he was also in this movie where he was a lawyer. That's what I'm thinking of. I can't remember the name of it. It's like a small town. It doesn't matter. Never mind.
Give me 1 second. So in the new series, they went out of their way to make it really work. I mean, they give the time period, everything's great, except for one thing. They hire Elliot Sumner to play Freddie Miles. Now, Freddie Miles, God, what's that freaking dude's name? I can't think. Big Philip Seymour Hoffman, big redheaded. Let me pull up his picture, actually, instead of doing that. He's deceased now, but I was really annoyed by this. So the character in the book is played really well in that movie by Philip Seymour Hoffman. Okay, so I mean he's supposed to be an overweight redheaded dude. This is the way that character should be. Well, this series, this brand new 2024 series, goes out of its way to get everything right, except for the fact that they cast Elliot Sumner. Elliot Sumner, non-binary, but we're talking female here. So they hired Elliot Sumner, and you're supposed to just overlook this fact that that's not a guy. That's not the character that's supposed to be there, and they throw it into this role that, I mean, when you're looking at it, I was just like, what the heck did they do here? Everything else, again, they went out of their way to make this perfect. And it was a good series. I mean, I thought a good slow burn. You're talking about, basically it's a story about a sociopath, and everything else is great, except for that casting was so bizarre. I didn't see anybody talk about that. I think people have gotten so used to them doing stuff like that anyway. But yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman was great in that role. And I mean, he fit that role. We're talking about an overweight, just like a brash, loud, comes from money. And that's the way the character is supposed to be. That's the way the character comes out of the book. And they decided, no, we're going to cast that differently. All right. Well, anyway, I'm going to hit super chats here in just a second because I'm going to
still recommend it?
Yeah, I would.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta go. You gotta go upstairs for a minute. I'll be done in about 10 minutes, and we'll make popcorn and we'll watch a movie. Okay. If you,
With the popcorn.
yeah, we'll make popcorn and we'll watch a movie.
That's
Okay.
great.
If you go upstairs, 10 minutes.
Popcorn.
Yes, make popcorn. We will make popcorn. She did the funniest thing the other day. So I was watching her with her sister. She walked over to her sister. She's 4 and her sister's 10. So she walked over and she said, "Hey, sissy, do you want a chip?" You know, it seemed so nice and everything. And her sister was like, "Oh, thanks." And she grabbed it and, you know, she started putting it in her mouth. And, you know, I couldn't see them very well where they were sitting. All of a sudden I see a chip fly up in the air. And she was like, "Gross, it's wet." And my 4-year-old started laughing and she said, "I gave you the chip, sissy. I didn't say the salt." So she had licked all the salt off of it.
Jeez.
Yeah.
She's so
Yeah,
good.
see, she thought, I was like, oh
Giggling
my
about
God.
it.
At 4, she thought, you know, I was like, man, that's pretty slick for a 4-year-old. You know? Anyway, I'm going to hit super chats,
That's like
guys.
AAA gaming. Here's your chip. I licked off the gameplay off it.
I mean, it's hilarious. I was like, are you kidding me? But anyway, I'm going to hit super chats. If you guys want to stick, that's cool. If you want to bounce, that's cool. It's up to you guys.
I do have to run. It's
Okay.
getting to be dinner time around here. Fam time.
Okay. All right. Hey, I appreciate you coming on, man. We'll have to do it as this stuff goes forward. You know, I'm sure we'll be on Flashcast together, but we'll have to do this again.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, bro. I appreciate you, man.
Got to go deep into the business stuff. Loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it. All right. Thank you, man.
Good seeing you, man.
Yep. See you, Flash. Take care, guys. Bye.
All right, Flash. I mean, are you going to hang or are you going to bounce?
Yeah, I'll stay with you to get through the super chats.
All right. Yeah. I may lose control of this stream. Yeah. This is what, just wait, man. You're going to lose control of streams. It's going to be like this. You're going to have that. You're going to have microphone interference. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Oh, hello. Well, while he's doing that, Miss Jackson NC for 2. Tug impregnate him with his voice.
Hey, can you hold it down for 1 second? I'm going to deal with her for 1 second.
Yep. Fallen Hero gifted a membership. Raging Rhino gifted 5 memberships. What a dude. No Star Wars talk during the stream, Raging Rhino, so I'm sure that you probably didn't hang around very long. Raging Rhino only cares about all things Star Wars. That's it. Nothing else. Has a shrine to Star Wars in his house somewhere. I'm convinced of it. Probably has Kathleen Kennedy pictures all over it.
All right, there we go.
Well, I got you all the way to Miss Jackson.
Miss Jackson, good deal. All right.
NC.
Fallen Hero, thank you for the gifted membership. Appreciate
I got that one.
You did? All right. Did you get Raging Rhino?
Yep.
All right.
Miss
good deal.
Jackson.
So you got this Miss Jackson. There's actually 2 Miss Jacksons. You get
Oh,
that
yeah,
one?
no, I got that one.
Okay. Did you get this one?
Nope.
Okay. Miss Jackson, thank you for the additional 5 there. This is my redo. I was supposed to say that Tug's voice impregnates women. Yeah. Heck yeah.
She's
I
hot
mean, we
for
didn't
you.
even talk about the Echard. We're going to have to really, you know, that trial's coming up at the, like, almost the midpoint of, you know, I think it's the 10th in June. And that's gotten so crazy, man. We definitely have to talk about that. We'll have to sit down and you'll love this trial, man. It is batshit insane. We're talking about like a woman that not only seems to have faked twins, you know, with a Bachelor star Clayton Echard, but also has done this 4 times. That's the allegation, 4 other times. And she basically, she'll pretend that she's pregnant and she'll give a dating contract to a guy. You know, if you want me to get rid of it, I will, but you have to date me.
Oh.
It's crazy shit, man. I mean, and it's worked. It's worked many times for her. But now, in this specific case, like she's got there's faked sonograms, all kinds of stuff. We'll talk about it another day. It's just crazy. Turtle Shell, thank you for the 5 there. On Tekken 8, 1v1 with Flash.
I don't play a lot of Tekken. I suck at Tekken. Soul Calibur guy. I would play it, but
but you wouldn't do well at it.
Yeah, the next fighting game I'm going to play is Dragon Ball Z Sparking. So that's where you have to catch me.
Not a band account. Thanks for the 2. Doctor Who Series 1 is groundbreaking Disney TV. Doctor Who Series 1.
Oh, yeah. He's talking about the new show.
Oh,
They
the new one?
rebooted
Is that
it.
what-
They call it season 1.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize they were calling it that. I haven't kept up with it. I'm just so turned off by
Yeah, I just
everything.
learned that today. Well, there's a lot
you?
of shit that came out with them over the like it was worth covering because there was a lot that happened.
Really.
Yeah.
Fallen Hero, thanks for the 17 months there. You get rid of bad gaming journos, then bad community managers. Indeed. If you flush the bad gaming journal, that pretty much would shut down a lot of these places, though, like Kotaku. They would be gone, you know. Legal Vices, thanks for the squiggles. Gotta say, yeah, what's up, man, if he's still around. Diablo 2 sits right behind Witcher 3 and Dark Souls 1 as my most memorable game playthroughs. Oh, I don't know what my most memorable are. Played a lot of games, you know.
Oh,
I mean, I
Dark
think-
Souls for sure. For me, yeah, Dark Souls 3 was my first one, so that one. Chrono Trigger, of course. Up there for me.
Resident Evil 2 and Silent Hill 2, games like that, you know, I think.
Resident Evil 4.
Yeah,
that's
4 was an amazing game.
That's one I love.
I liked that remake, man. It was good. I think
did
we,
too.
God, we went through that game probably 36 times. The kids liked that game, you know. They enjoyed the horror and the creepiness to it, so. Not a band account. Thanks for 2. At least we can agree property ownership is theft. Yeah, we need more squatters, right? Jeremiah, thanks for the 2. R.I.P. Richard Corman. Yeah, I mean, Roger Corman. I know, he was like in his 90s, so I figured that would happen. But man, you talk about somebody that had a real impact on making, you know, quick, cheap movies and impacted a lot of bigger names too. Hell yeah. R.I.P. to him. Sandra D, thanks for the 5 gifted memberships. Thank you. Also, I saw Drunk come in.
Hey.
Jay. Yeah.
Should have
what's up,
jumped
Jay?
on here, Jay.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the 5 gifted memberships. Fallen Hero, thanks for the 5 there. Gamers have always been very vocal about what we like and dislike. Well, that's like anything, though. Comics or anything else. We've always been vocal. We always argue with each other about, you know, whatever property or character or anything else. It's just we haven't really had companies fight us like they have. Like they think they're in control. And, you know, we ultimately control it because we control the money. Let's see. And I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. Thanks for the 10. Loving the panel discussion. Big fan, Tug. Hey, thank you. Appreciate that. Keep up the good work. Yeah, I've been wanting to branch out a little more. You know, I've been covering a lot of cases, which are fun. But I don't know. I want to cover other stuff too. John, thanks for the 2. Thanks for standing up for us, the regular people. Yeah, I think I've been watching all that stuff with Grummz. I wanted to have him on because I think it's so crazy, like how many people have gone after him over nothing. DCV Titan, thanks for 5. I bought Hogwarts Legacy because I was promised it'd end people, and my thought was, so it's a guilt-free game. And DCV Titan thinks it is. So, Blubberbell? Yeah, there you go. Like interspecies reviewers? Indeed. So we're going to lose Tinkerbell to Blubberbell. That's fine. Magna Defender, 98. Thanks for the 5 there. There's a new variant called Flirt. It's funny how sub-IQ journalists believe they can reuse a 4-year-old code. Oh, yeah, a variant there. I saw talking about that. It's the Who Gives a variant. Yeah, I saw them talking about that, you know, and a lot of people have just been like, you know, they've gotten tired of it. City Thunder, thanks for the 10. Grummz, given everything with Xbox. I'm sorry, I I didn't see that come in, or I'd ask them. Give everything with Xbox. What do you think is the likelihood of a dev it being shut down? A studio more focused on AAA single player and their only live service, like Quake Champions failed. Maybe I ask him that. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe I'll ask him now. I'll screenshot it and ask. Valiant Renegade, also. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for the 20 there. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you, my friend. And Colin, thanks for the 5 there. I've been in the gaming industry for 17 years. Up, down, left, right. Indeed. Sales and then sales interlinked. Indeed. All right. Well, I'm going to call it here. I think everybody knows Flash. Make sure you catch our streams, especially on Saturdays. Catch Flashcast. Those are a lot of fun. Obviously, sub if you're not there anyway, but come to Flashcast. I think the Flashcasts have been fun. You know, they've...
Yeah, a lot of fun on Saturday. Saturdays was really fun.
Yeah, we just been cutting up and, you know, talking about, like, bullshit, just goofing off, basically. It's been, you know... I don't know, it's been a lot of fun getting everybody together, laughing at all the stupid that's out there. But anyway, I'm going to call it here. Appreciate folks, and I'm ended it.